Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our second edition of the Student Organization Impact Series for summer 2020. My name is Alan Galvez, and I am a Student Program Advisor for the Office of Student Activities. And today we are going to talk about how to work virtually in a virtual world for our student organization leaders. Now, as I mentioned before, this is our second session. Our first session last week was going over officer transitions and how that can work online and for the future for leaders within a student organization. Today, again, we are going to go over how to work virtually in a virtual world and what that means for our student organization leaders as we work at a social distance while we are quarantining, especially right now during COVID-19 circumstances. Now, you can go ahead and think about this in your head, but before quarantine, did any of you rarely utilize virtual work with others? I know this can be a toss-up with many people. Some people have done work virtually, a lot of work virtually, depending on maybe their jobs or an internship that they have. But maybe some of you may not have done too much work virtually, and you've always been accustomed to doing things in person or face to face. And that's totally okay because today we're going to go over proper practices and techniques and things to keep in mind when you are working virtually with others. Different topics that we are going to cover will be online resources, online organizational management, and online etiquette. The bulk of our presentation will mostly be online organizational management, talking about those best practices and things to keep in mind when you are working virtually. So first, going over online resources. You may be thinking, if you are not too accustomed to working virtually, how am I supposed to do work virtually without being in the same room with other people? And that's totally understandable. And we are going to talk about different platforms that you can utilize when you are trying to work virtually with others. First, we're going to go over communication between your team. You want to make sure that you are able to communicate with others, whether that's with using your laptop camera or phone or instant messaging, things like that. Different platforms that offer that kind of communication capabilities will be platforms such as Skype, Slack, WebEx, Zoom, Jabber, and there's a few other ones, but I mostly wanted to mention the ones that I've personally experienced myself. Of course, there are many others out there, but this is a time for you to research what kind of communication platforms you and others want to use together when you are working virtually. My personal experience in terms of work has been with Skype, WebEx, and Zoom. My personal opinion is working with Zoom is a little bit more easier for me because it tends to be a little more user friendly as opposed to maybe WebEx and even Skype. But again, it is up to you as to how you're comfortable with it, how others are comfortable with it, and for all of you to test out and research how this can mean for you and others. Once you've kind of distinguished a communication platform, you may want to think about what platform will be best for collaboration. And when I mean collaboration is how are you and others going to work on assignments or files or documents or projects together while you are all virtual. A short list of some of these collaboration platforms are going to be Igloo, Google Docs, Microsoft Teams, Quip, and Dropbox. I have personally been able to play around with Google Docs and Microsoft Teams. My personal preference is Google Docs because it tends to be more colorful. I think it's a little bit more user friendly for the person, but Microsoft Teams is really good because it's one of the few out there that does give you capabilities to do both collaborating and communication between you and a small team of people. The only things that I've noticed with Microsoft Teams in my experience is that it sometimes can get a little glitchy. And at times I've needed to do restarts on either the program or the computer for it to function a little bit more properly. But for the most part, it's a pretty good program. Again, I like Google Docs because of its colorfulness and user friendliness. But like I mentioned, it is up to you and your group to figure out what's going to be best for all of you. And for the most part, all of these programs do offer a basic free plan or account when you sign up with them. But the more capabilities that you're looking for with the program, the more likelihood it's going to then charge you. So it's up to, again, you and your other officers to look out what's going to be best for the entire team and probably be more free since we are all students and we do have different things that we have to keep in mind since we are currently students. So, going over online organizational management, when choosing your platforms, the first thing you should do is establish basic connections. So, before you even think about doing really cool online platforms, first make sure that you have at least the email, telephone, and even social media of you and the team that you are working with, and of course, including your officers. This is good because if something happens online, you have means to maybe give someone a phone call, or if you only have access to internet with your phone only and maybe not so much the household, then maybe social media can be another way for you to communicate, or even the email. Once you have those basic connections out of the way, then you can move on to the next level, which is then going into your platforms online. Now, of course, we need internet to connect to anything that's, of course, online. So you want to make sure that you have internet capabilities and decently strong ones wherever you are when you are working virtually, whether that's with your laptop at home or with your phone, if you tablet even. But of course, we want to do a lot of work virtually, so maybe the phone may not be the first choice. And I know some of us may not have internet at home, so different things that we need to maybe think about is how to manipulate the environment around us so that way we can make sure that we have internet access. I've had people who will go and park at a Starbucks and try to get internet that way while remaining in the safety of their car, and they connect that way. Or maybe if you're still in San Antonio, you can drive yourself to the UTSA campus and park yourself in that parking lot if you want to get that free internet. Or at least you can also go to different libraries to also try to access that internet as well, if they are open or not. But those are different ways that you can manipulate the environment around you so you can try to have access to those different resources if you don't have internet at home. Now, next thing to do is to finally choose the platform. So you need to research with you and your team as to which platform is going to be best for all of you, including yourself, and keeping in mind what's going to be best for communication between each other and then collaboration with each other. And again, if you decide Microsoft Teams is the best platform for you because it combines a little bit of both, then you're more than welcome to do so as well. Once everyone decides on the platform that you all want to use as a team, it is great to start familiarizing yourself with the platforms once they have been chosen. And this is good so that way before you even do any kind of business or meetings that are very business heavy, you can take that time before that meeting to explore and have test runs. Now, I highly suggest that you give yourself and your team time to familiarize all of yourselves with these platforms before, like I mentioned, you go into work virtually, and have those test runs where all of you get on camera, have a test run meeting, and all of you kind of tinker with the functions and the buttons that exist for the platform that you're using. That way, when comes time for the business meeting, no one's having any issues or no one's confused about where to press what and so on. So once everyone is connected with their platforms and they're familiarized with it, now you want to start kind of preparing yourself before you get into work. Now, you want to, for best practices, commit to and maintain a regular schedule, whether that is school or work or commitment hours towards your student organization. And rule of thumb, since you are with your fellow students within your student organization, a t-shirt and shorts is a good way to go. If you're going to have a meeting with others, try not to dress down any less than that, such as pajamas or like a sleeping tank top or anything like that. You want to present yourself relatively well, even if you're meeting with your colleagues, because this gives you the mindset and the narrative within your mind that you're ready and you're good to go to do work. And this even includes class time. It gives you that narrative inside your mind when you are at least slightly dressed up casually, to where you're going to focus on what's being presented. And like I mentioned, create a schedule for you, and that includes creating a morning routine and an agenda. So we know that we are at home, we're quarantining, we're social distancing, but don't take this as an opportunity to kind of mope around and not do much of anything, just because you're at home. Try to separate your mindset between leisure and working, even while you're still at home, and create those routines where at this time you get up, at this time you eat breakfast, at this time you check your email, at this time you do different tasks, then you have your lunch, then so on. So keep that routine and keep that agenda for you so you know exactly what to do throughout the days. Pick a spot at home that's going to be beneficial for you in terms of doing the best productivity for your work. And that includes choosing a spot where you will not have much noise, that you have good lighting, and that you are comfortable for a long period of time, since you are taking time to do work and not doing anything else while you're at home. Noise reduction, if you have dogs or children or roommates or family members around, or if you're near a window that might be, having a lawnmower, mowing your lawn that day. Just keep all those things in mind. And of course, be in a spot that won't have that noise. And if you can't avoid it because of people being in close proximity, just kindly ask them, hey, I'm going to have a meeting. I'm going to be doing this. I would appreciate if, there wasn't too much noise going on. Thank you so much. Good. You move on. Good lighting is great, especially when you are close to a window. I personally prefer natural lighting from the window only because you're able to see all of your features on your face when you are chatting with someone on the camera. But of course, if you're not uh, comfortable with being near a window or it's loud outside, of course, any other lighting is fine. So overhead lighting or even lamps to the side is fine as well. Just make sure that we are able to see your face when you are having meetings. Comfortability. If you're going to be sitting in a chair for a long period of time, make sure it's a nice comfy chair. You don't want to be too uncomfortable when you are trying to have these meetings and that's stuck on your mind. So make sure also that you have a cup of water next to you, a light snack next to you, so that way you stay comfortable and planted, and you are replenishing yourself throughout that time that you're working. Set ground rules with the people in your space. So I kind of mentioned it before with noise reduction, but this could include family, pets, even outdoor distractions. So if you have a pet, maybe you want to have another roommate or family member take care of them during that time. Or ask a roommate, like, hey, please don't be loud during this time. I'm going to be having meetings and I'll be working on this. Thank you so much. Cool. You move on, you communicate with the people around you, and that's just always important. Communication. It's usually the first go to when it comes to conflict resolution. Self care. People do not think that self care is as big as it should be, but it really should be. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how do you expect to do very well in work and the commitments that you have in your life. So self-care is very, very important. So as we are at home and we are in front of a screen and we're not going out too much, self-care is even more important. So schedule breaks throughout your workday, or your be in between meetings that you may have scheduled, so that way you are taking care of yourself. And that could be going to the restroom, having a stretch, moving around, taking a walk. All of those are very good examples of utilizing a break whenever you are just at home and trying to do work in front of a computer screen. And time away from the screen is very important. I actually used to be an optometric technician, and I learned a lot about information about like blue lighting and fatigue with your eyes if you are in front of a TV screen, computer screen, a phone screen, tablet, all of that. So it really helps to fatigue your eyes a lot. So you want to make sure that you are having time when you're not looking at a computer screen and give your eyes a break. Social distancing outside, of course, is always going to remain very important during these times. So if you do decide to go take a walk around the neighborhood or around your block, if you see someone around the same area that you are, just remember social distancing, using your masks, so that way you can help prevent any kind of infection or passing around any kind of um, condition that you might have right now. Eating healthy is very important as well. So, since we are at home and we are not doing much mobility, and we're trying to not be out as much, our physical activity is going to go down. So, if that's the case, then we want to make sure that we balance out that low physical activity with extra healthy snacks. So, fruits, vegetables, wholesome foods, of course. And here on the slide, I have heart.org. It's the American Heart Association's website. So if you want to look up good diet plans or best practices when eating healthy, that's a great place to start if you want to keep that in mind, since we are all being quarantined right now. At the end of the day, put your work away. And I mentioned it before about separating leisure time with work time while you're still at your house. I definitely think that that should be something that you practice very much. So at the end of the day, when you are done with your workday, whether that's 5 p.m. or 3 p.m. or even 10 p.m., make sure you distance yourself from the area that you usually work and cut that laptop down, close it, put it away, and give yourself that separation from work and leisure. A little bit about me when it comes to practices that I do is when I wake up, of course, I'm in my bedroom, right? But I make sure that if I'm going to be working that day, I leave my bedroom and I try not to go into my bedroom at all until I know that 5 p.m. rolls around and my workday is done, and then I am able to go back into my bedroom. The reason for that is because I just try to separate myself in terms of the environments of what I'm doing, in terms of that room. So if my bedroom is where I watch TV, maybe play video games and sleep, I don't want that to coincide with the areas of where I work because I'm under the same roof. So just think about that if you'd like. Always try to keep a different area from when you're working. And I even do the same thing when I have lunch. So this might sound kind of crazy, but one side of the table I will be working, and if it's lunchtime, I go to the opposite side of the table, different angle, right? And then that's where I have lunch, just to try to have those little moments of separation within the same environment. And again, going over a steady sleep schedule. It's very important to have a steady sleep schedule. Relatively, you want to have anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Anything more than that will give you more fatigue. Any less of that can also do the same thing, and especially even give you more dark circles around your eyes, which may not be too pretty when you are wanting to do those virtual meetings with others. And maybe it's even an interview, so you want to look your best. you want to make sure you have the best sleep schedule. So 7 to 9 hours is a good range, and keep it to where you schedule yourself during the week as to when you will be sleeping. So again, we're at home, we're quarantining, maybe we have less to do because it's summer, but still try to keep a good sleep schedule. So maybe from 10 to 6, that's when you are sleeping, and 6 a.m. is when you got to be start waking up, right? And that's where you can keep that steady schedule of your agenda, your morning routine, and so on during the week. Connectivity when it comes to organizational management. Since we are virtual and we are not in the same room face to face, connectivity is much more important now than ever, since we are human and we do have emotions at the end of the day. So when you are within a team, it is very, very good practice to communicate often and to always try to work collaboratively and virtually while we are separate right now. So use your online platforms to communicate with each other, message each other, and see how each other are doing, check in on each other, support each other, meet each other online. Turn on that camera, uh, have small conversations about how each of you are doing. That helps to give in to that human connection that we are probably missing right now because we are separate. And like I mentioned, turn on your cameras. If you're going to be in a meeting where people are showing their faces, expect to show your face too. Don't be the only one, or you and two or three others out of like 10 people who have their cameras off. Turn it on, like show your face, connect in a human manner. Of course, if things are happening on your end, there's too many people in the room, no one could leave the room since you were having the meeting. Totally understandable. So maybe just at least make sure to communicate that with other people so that way they know you're not just maybe slumped in the bed and you just didn't want to get ready that morning and that's why you have the camera off. But hold weekly meetings with all officers. I think that's a very good tip to use when you are working in a team, whether that's in a student organization or beyond graduation when you start your career. Weekly meetings with others and then your officers is a very good way to keep each other accountable and then as well to support that human connection that I was mentioning before. Turn in-person meetings, work meetings to virtual. So if you were to do an in-person work meeting, treat it the same way, even if you were in front of the camera. So going back to good lighting, noise reduction, good like proper appearance in front of the camera. Um, if you know you're going to be in a noisy area, just make sure to turn off your mic. And like I mentioned, use these times to check in with each other. Schedule online social time with your fellow colleagues. And this can be either social hours or meals together or support sessions. It's okay to go beyond business when you are trying to maintain human connection with others, even in a virtual world. And what I mean by support sessions that y'all can schedule together, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. So support sessions are going to be good. So that way, if people have things on their mind that's getting in the way of their work, you want to establish that human connection and see what's going on. Like, see how you can help, see what you can do to support the other person during these tough times that we're in right now. So going over online etiquette, I've kind of touched upon this before already within the presentation, but remember, you do the same things online that you would in person. Like, would you do that? Yes or no? And think about that. Like, would you be slumped in your bed with your pet just around your face and you're in your pajamas and you got food in front of you and you're chowing down in front of everyone in a meeting? I probably wouldn't be doing that only because I do want to practice that online etiquette. And you should too when you are having these meetings virtually with others. So, what does online etiquette look like? First, online etiquette is making sure that you have a good and stable internet connection. So, got internet, got milk, got internet. That's kind of how I did that little funny blurb. But got internet. So, making sure you have a strong internet connection. Should you be on your phone in the mountains where internet connection's poor, trying to have a meeting? Probably not. I understand maybe you wanted to go for a hike, but still, you want to be in an area where you're not going to have to worry about bad internet connection in case you're giving a presentation or you're trying to hear very important information, whether from fellow officers or maybe a professor who's giving a class. So, having good internet connection is still showing good online etiquette. Look nice depending on what you're doing. So maybe with other officers, y'all are getting together for a meeting, casual, shorts, t-shirt, you're good to go. Anything above that, so maybe an interview, definitely go full suit because if it's an interview, you want to look your best no matter what. Dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have. And if it's for a class and you're needing to present something, that is up to you. It depends on the professor, depends on the presentation, but usually a good go-to is business casual if you're going to do any kind of presentation for a class. So slacks, button up is very good. Have everything combed, your beard, your hair, whatever it is that you have. If their camera is on, that means your camera should be on as well. Like I mentioned before, if you have a majority of people with their cameras on and you and a few other people's do not, then that should tell you that you should probably have the camera on. If you are especially in a class with a professor presenting, I highly suggest that you have the camera on to give them that full respect, that they know that you're paying attention, and that you're not just there with the camera on and you're doing something else. So give that same respect as you would in person, like I mentioned before, as you would virtually in front of your laptop, tablet, or phone. Make your background look nice or find an appropriate spot. So don't be trying to have a meeting and then you're in your bedroom, it's a messy bed, you have a basket overflowing with dirty laundry, you have some kind of cat running around. Try to keep that in mind when you're having a meeting. So if you don't want to clean your room, maybe go to a place that is relatively clean, maybe the dining room or the living room, or if you have a study, go there. But just try to have a nice environment around you, so that way you look appropriate when you're on camera. And if you don't find a spot anywhere that's appropriately relatively picked up or clean, I know a lot of online platforms have a feature where you are able to kind of green screen what's behind you and you can change it to like some kind of picture. So I've seen people at the beach, but they're really in their living room because of that feature or something. But of course, you want to choose something appropriate. So when in doubt, just do something from UTSA if you're doing anything UTSA related, especially with professors and classes. Frame the camera and have good lighting. So I mentioned about the lighting before, but framing the camera means making sure that you are stage center, front and center with your camera and your laptop. You're not too close, you're not too far away, you're at a happy medium distance, and your face is in the center of the screen. It's not in the corners, it's not off to the side where we can only see half of your face. Make sure you position yourself appropriately. Set a meeting time where you are not just going straight into video. So what I mean by that is if you have a meeting time, try to get there a few minutes before so that way you can collect yourself. You're comfortable, you have your drink, you're not going to go anywhere, you look appropriate, you're combed, you have a decent outfit on. You don't need to go to the restroom. People around you know that you're going to have a meeting. Good to go. Now that you've prepped yourself before the meeting, now you can go straight into your video and do whatever it is that you got to do. Do not submit to distractions. That is very big. So if you do have a pet, you have a roommate who's very funny and loud, try not to submit to those distractions. I will say this is something that I tend to uh, submit to. I'm next to a window, so sometimes I see very crazy big vultures flying around outside, and shadows are kind of like distracting me very quickly. So that's something I'm needing to work on, but I realize that it is something to work on. And I mean, that's always the first step, is knowing that there's an issue. So don't submit to distractions. Control your environment. So again, if you're able to control the people around you, the pets around you, the noise around you, the lighting, all of that, make sure that you do that before you get into a meeting. And again, have an agenda and a clear structure of what all of you will be doing during the meeting. So that can be assigned to an officer who is going to do what or present what during the meeting. Have it all kind of written out on a Microsoft Word document, and have it to where someone screen shares it, to where all of you kind of know what's going to be talked about. You see what's coming up next, so you're that way you're prepared. That's a good way to have everyone be accountable and remain on topic. A big question: to mic or not to mic? I found this funny meme that says, not muting your mic is the new reply all. And that is very true, because if you don't remember to mute yourself, I'm sorry, and you have some kind of personal business going on around you in the background or something on your end, everyone's going to know about it. So make sure that you pay attention to your mic. If you are not speaking, have it off or muted. If you know you're supposed to present something that's coming up, make sure that you unmute yourself, or go ahead and mic yourself, so that way you can give that presentation. But keep that in mind, because I know we all tend to have our mics off, but if you're not paying attention and someone's asking you a question, you might, if you forget that your mic is off, you're going to start talking, and then no one's going to be able to hear you for a little bit, and then they'll be telling you, Alan, your mic's off. So now you've kind of just needed to repeat yourself and turn the mic on, right? So just keep that in mind whenever you are in your virtual meetings. All right, so if you have any questions, we do have our email at the end of this presentation, and you are more than welcome to email us with any questions, whether that's working virtually or anything else pertaining to student organizations. And on the next episode of our Student Organization Impact series, we'll be keeping members engaged. This will be June 24th at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Again, it's going to be via Zoom, like we're doing right now, and it'll also be recorded like all of our sessions. So that way, if you're not able to attend, you can always catch up and view our recording at a later date after the meeting has already happened. But if you are able to access it, we will, as all of our sessions, have a Rowdy Link event page set up for it, where you can go and click on the link to access the session. All right, well, I want to thank everyone for attending our How to Work Virtually Impact Series session today. If you want to email us, our email is right there on the slide. Get involved at utsa.edu if you have any questions that come up later. And please follow us on our social media. And those are our social media handles. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So we are always updating our social media accounts with new things, new events, new programs. So if you follow us, you will be more likely to know about what's going on with our office. But if there is nothing else, I want to thank everyone for listening in to our session. Hope to see you on the next session, or you can always catch the recording. Again, my name is Alan Galvez, Student Program Advisor for Student Activities, and I hope all of you have a great day. Thank you all.